spring ball across college football has wrapped up. And this past weekend was kind of everybody's last chance to get in and get your spring games in. UW had theirs on Friday. And now the transfer portal has closed for people that aren't entering the portal, but a lot of guys have committed. And we're seeing a lot of teams filling needs, right? We saw it with the Oregon Ducks with Peyton Woodyard and Derek Harmon, the safety out of Alabama, and the defensive tackle from Michigan State, both committing to Oregon over the weekend. Two of the most highly coveted defensive prospects that remained in the portal, both going Oregon's way. Well, there's now a lot of coaches out there, and they're having to be on the offensive because maybe they didn't fill those holes in their roster. Which brings us to one Brian Kelly. And Brian Kelly sat down with WFAB 9 in Baton Rouge. And he opened up some eyes and is getting dragged for this response.
Well, I think I made it pretty clear in a number of the press conferences that I had that we were in the market in recruiting in the transfer portal looking for defensive linemen. It hasn't fared very well, quite frankly, because we're selling something a little bit differently, and that is we want to recruit. We want to engage, build relationships. We want to develop, retain, and have success. We're not in the market of buying players, and unfortunately, right now, that's what some guys are looking for. They want to be bought. And look, I understand NIL is part of this, and we have an incredible collective. We have very, very generous opportunities around the greater Baton Rouge area for NIL opportunities. So they are here, but we're not going to go out and buy players. That's not what this is about. This was never about that. We will develop you. We will get you ready for the next step, as we did with Jaden Daniels, as we did with Malik Neighbors, as we did with Brian Thomas. We developed 3 defensive linemen that all got drafted this year, and we'll do that again. But if you're just looking to get paid, you're looking in the wrong place. If you like all the things that we do here in developing our players, bringing you into a championship program, playing in front of the best fan base in America, playing for championships, and having an opportunity for NIL, you should be a Tiger. But if you just want to get paid, this is not the place for you.
Uh-huh. This coming from the man who left Notre Dame for a $100 million contract. And then he mentioned Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, how did he get from Arizona State to LSU? Did he just just choose LSU out of the goodness of his heart?
And that is a pretty blanket statement that all of the guys in the portal were just looking for money. And this is what it comes down to is you get to a point where a coveted prospect in the portal has a bunch of very good programs to choose from. NIL does matter.
Yes.
I mean, what he's saying is that we only want the guys that are going to come and they're going to compete right away.
Good luck.
The idea that, he's basically saying that any of these guys that didn't go to LSU are going solely for the money. Yeah. They're not the guys who want to play and they want to compete.
It sounds like he's covering his own ass of failing to work all that well in the transfer portal. That's what it sounds like.
And that is 100%.
No way, old coach struggling to recruit or bring guys in via either high school or transfer portal. Wow.
I also found it pretty amusing that he's like, the guys that we developed here, like Malik Neighbors, who was recruited there before he got there. It is, and they do a fantastic job. LSU has historically done a fantastic job with developing wide receiver talent, quarterback talent. Well, in front, LSU has been an NFL pipeline at every level on both sides of the ball.
But historically, the last 15 years, it's wide receivers and DBs. They crank out top end guys.
But this is what, and when you say the old guy in the new age of college football, this is where a lot of the older coaches have gone to. And you look at the coaches that do very well in the portal, whether it's Lane Kiffin, Dan Lanning, Deion Sanders. They are guys who have embraced the idea that you can fill holes through the portal, and using NIL, it should not be. It's not an inducement, right? As the NCAA calls it. There's a reason why
We heard
that
Nick
we are
Saban on
careening.
TV say, we tried to get this guy to get into the portal, but he wouldn't go. Like, what are we doing here? You know what? I'm going to go full.
In the NFL draft, if
Yeah.
you missed that one, when the corner out of
Quinion Mitchell.
God, where'd he go? Kent
Toledo.
State?
Toledo.
Toledo. When he sat there when he got drafted, said, "Yeah, this was our number one target in the portal. We tried to get him in the portal. He wouldn't enter the portal, but he was our number one target in the portal." It's like, dude,
It's literally tampering.
that is the only rule you
Yeah.
cannot break.
I'm going to go full Dave Chappelle here, and what does Jaw think about this? Where's Dabo on this? Dabo's been awful quiet. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Well, did you see?
Put his head down and recruit.
There are 4 FBS programs that did not get a single player out of the portal. Clemson is one of them.
Oh,
Not a single player
interesting.
added through the portal. Do you want to guess the other 3? Do you know the other 3?
No.
Small FBS. I'm assuming
They are all FBS programs. You guys know all of them.
Are they all military academies?
It is
Yeah.
Army, Navy, Air Force.
Yeah, there you go.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Clemson.
Yeah, you
the
can't-
only 4 FBS programs that did not have a single addition to the transfer portal.
Transfers to a military academy outside of Citadel is pretty much unheard of.
All of them had players go out of the
Yeah.
portal.
Oh, yeah. No, but into? No.
Nobody came in.
Nobody goes
That
through
way.
their first year of college and goes, you know what I want to do? All that stuff I just did, I want to give that up. It's not how that works, ever.
Could this be Brian Kelly's like shift after last year where he just got ripped for all of his weird recruiting practices? Like, remember he was doing the videos with the kids and Kiffin was making fun of him, and then a couple of the other like athletes, none of them really committed with him. Could that be what's going on here where he's like, I went full bore into it last year and it didn't work for me. So maybe I revert back and it's a stark overcorrection.
But at the same time, like if you go down that line of thinking, you can say that no, what we did through the portal was actually very effective. Jaden Daniels won a Heisman Trophy, right? Like what we did through the portal, it did work. And you can say we need to kind of grease those skids a little bit more. It is in the idea that LSU had a bad year. They didn't have a bad year. What, they were 9
They had 3 losses. They lost to FSU, Alabama, and Ole Miss, I believe. I believe those are your losses.
and that, like, by no way is that a bad year. But in their offense, as Pete Carroll would say, the offense was ripping, right? You had
Defense struggled.
You had a Heisman Trophy winner, but also Notre Dame would like to have a word with that because they had those struggles at times too, right? Where the offense was unstoppable, but it was on the defensive side. They were 10-3 last year. They were 10-3 and end of the season on a 4-game win streak. Like what they did, it does work. Into the idea that LSU of all places being like, yeah, we don't pay players. You're in the SEC. We know that you guys were paying players before NIL was actually a thing because it's in the SEC and you won 2 national titles during that time. Yeah. We know what you guys are doing. Actually, 3 because you had Saban, and then you had Les Miles, and then you had Ed Orgeron. You've won 3 national titles before NIL was actually a thing. Don't give me that we don't go down that road. You guys lived in that area.
There's no crossing that up.
Yeah. Brian Kelly is a damn good coach, though.
Oh, yeah. Horrible human being. Great coach.
Great football mind. An amazing developer of talent everywhere he's been, whether it was Grand Valley State or Central Michigan or Notre Dame or LSU. He squeezes the most out of his guys. But it's always been in a very particular way. And this is one of the things that people were cautioning when Brian Kelly went down to LSU, right? He came from Notre Dame. Is he going to play those games? And if he's not going to play those games, then especially in the era of college football that we are at now, where NIL does matter. NIL especially matters in the portal when you're trying to get great players to fill holes in your roster. Having those opportunities does matter. So he talked out of both sides of his mouth by saying we have great opportunities for NIL in Baton Rouge, which they do. But his problem is they couldn't close on those defensive line prospects. And that is a bigger issue for them.
Well, could that also be because athletes are smarter than they've ever been before? And if you see, hey, he's great with offensive players and their development. Notice how none of the people that he mentioned by name were on defense? That could be a thing, too, where the D linemen look at that and go, I don't care how much money you give me. Or if you say, hey, we're going to give you the same amount that this school is going to give me, but I can go and play for a better defensive coordinator, or I can go play for a better defensive position coach, I'd rather go and do that.
And I think there is a reality here that I think people need to kind of wrap their head around, is that you also have a new defensive coordinator coming into LSU this year. Blake Baker, who was at Missouri, and I don't know if Missouri may be like the most overlooked solid program in the country right now.
Yeah.
Whether it's NFL talent, winning football games,
Yeah.
like Missouri's done a really damn good job, and they brought in Blake Baker, but he didn't come from a program that is a powerhouse.
No, so you got to do things a little bit differently.
And so anytime you have a defensive coordinator come in, you're going to have guys inherently jump into the portal. I know that they had the defensive lineman who ended up at Colorado. He was an LSU guy. Your holes are going to happen in your roster because you have a major coaching change, especially at the defensive coordinator position. It's the way of the world right now.
That movement. And I wonder how different that looks as we move into the more corporate structure and coaching contracts, and how much fluidity there's going to be in that going forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a interesting world that we're living in now.